check on the stream if everything is working fine. We can start it. Okay. Please say something.
Hello, hello. This is working.
Please say something.
Should I talk louder?
Perfect.
This is working.
Perfect. I checked it on the stream too. It's working perfectly. Nice. Okay. I will also share the Steam page of your game on stream so people can see it, and then we can start. Okay. Nice. Oh, wait. Okay.
Should I join the stream as well?
It's up to you. It's up to you, by the way. It's up to you. Like I said, I always read out the questions that goes from the community. So if you want, of course, sure.
Then I prefer not to, because maybe I get double audio. Or
or
PC
lag. Yeah, or internet lag.
Well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like can cause some issues. True. Okay. I'm ready. Let me know if you are ready too, and we can start.
Yes, I am.
Nice. So welcome everyone in the very new episode of my Dev Live show. Today I'm joined with the creator of Shadows of the Afterland game. Thank you, first of all, that you joined us for my episode of my Dev Live show for today's podcast episode. Like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Hi, I'm Rubén. I'm one of the developers of Aruma Studios. And we are developing Shadows of the Afterland, a point-and-click adventure. And this is our second kind of professional point-and-click adventure that we are releasing. Before that, we did also a free adventure game that's available on itch.io, but the quality wasn't very, very high. So yeah, that's what we are doing.
I see. So my very first question, like always at my shows, what was your very first contact with video games as a player, if you remember those times of your past?
Mm-hmm. So I don't really know which game was the first one I ever played. Okay. What I can tell you is that it was definitely on a Amstrad CPC 464.
Okay.
With 64Ks of RAM. Who needed more, right?
True.
And I like the PC came with, well, it wasn't even a PC. It came with a bunch of games already. I probably started with some of those, but I don't remember them very well. They weren't very, very good, to be honest. But one I actually remember quite well from those times is called The Abbey of Crime, which was kind of fun point-and-click adventure. Not so much point-and-click because we didn't have a mouse back then. But it was definitely an adventure game, and you had to solve puzzles and all of that. So that's one I remember very, very well. So that's how it started. Actually, I remember that my dad would come with some games for me to play, and I did play some of those, but I was more interested in this book that came with the computer, because back then computers came with books. And it had this code, right, that you could try, copy and paste it, and well, not paste it, we didn't have mouse or anything, right, but you had to type it, and then you could see what happened when you type that code, and maybe you could draw a line and then a circle, and then slowly I started making small things. I wouldn't even call them games, but small things.
Just so experiments.
Yeah, it started as playing, but slowly I was more interested in how can I make something like those games rather than playing them so much.
I see. That would be, or that was intended to be my second question. So what was the transition time or the click when you realized that, hey, I would like to make games, but you already answered it. Thank you for that too. Yeah. And what was the time when you like finally made the first step that, hey, I'm now making games? So what was that real light bulb moment. You realize that,
Oh,
okay,
okay. So
I was doing this for years. It was my passion, but now I would like to release a game finally. And how it happens for
so
you.
yeah, this needs a little bit of background, maybe backstory. So when I entered university to study, I studied software engineering.
I see.
And most of my teachers would tell me that video games wasn't a serious profession. Like I shouldn't do that. I should go consulting or something else, right? And they actually did it so much that they ended up convincing me, and I lost all interest in game dev
I
during
can relate to
university.
that. Yeah.
And then I just went. I still went to places where I could do computer graphics, so it was kind of related to video games. I even made some virtual reality sort of video games. I wouldn't call them video games, interactive experiences or whatever.
I see.
And then I mean, it took me like 10 years or so to start thinking again about making video games. So yeah, after 10 years, I got one of those Android phones, right, that you could program yourself. And I actually made a very little game similar to Lemmings. In a way, you have this chicken, and you had to take the chicken to an egg, and you couldn't tell the chicken to do things like in Lemmings, but you could modify the environment so that the chicken wouldn't fall. You could place pieces on the environment so the chicken would get to the egg. And I actually released it, and it got a bit of traction because back then there weren't that many games in Android anyway. So yeah, it was easy to have a game that you get to maybe have 100 players, 200 players. Now it would be impossible to do that unless you have amazing graphics and a lot of money. And because of this Android programming, I decided I wanted to try and call the guys who made Android. So I knocked on Google's door and I sent my resume and eventually actually got hired by them.
Wow.
And spent another 10 years working for them in Switzerland. And after those 10 years, my partner and I, Sylvia and I, decided to move back to Spain. And we both had this kind of entrepreneur mentality that we wanted to build something
I see.
ourselves. And I always wanted to actually make video games like for real, not just these toy things. And she loves like audiovisual. She used to be a movie and TV producer. So we said we could combine our skills and maybe build something. And this is a good timing because we are both leaving our jobs there and coming back to Spain. And then we decided, yeah, this is the time to try and see if this works.
True.
So we decided to be like full-time game devs. We have some savings, of course, especially Switzerland is a very expensive country, so it's easy to get some savings that last a bit longer in Spain.
True.
So yeah. That's how we got into professional game dev.
Thank you, by the way, for your honesty about this whole story and background of yours. So my next question, by the way, would be from this topic that you mentioned and all the background story of yours. What could be the causing effect for those 20 years, if I count it correctly, that you haven't made the first step in order to pursue your passion, right? Because like you told me before, you always wanted to make your own video games. There was always there for you as a dream, right? But you also told me that your teachers at university like took away the passion from you or the energy that could help you make those games. Do you think like you did not have, or you had those doubts in yourself for so many years?
I did, of course.
I see.
At first, it was because they kind of convinced me that this wasn't a very serious job, and
I see.
it would be very dangerous and so on. But yeah, I think I also lost a little bit of passion about game dev.
I see.
But yeah, and then I saw this thriving community of point and click adventure game devs
True.
that are now emerging.
It's really coming back, in my opinion, right? So it's really reliving the golden age of the era of point and click adventure games, in my opinion.
So I think for me the tipping point was Thimbleweed Park, the new game by Ron Gilbert. and he was doing it. Of course, he has a name and he has like free marketing because of that and so on. But he was doing it as a sort of indie kind of
Way.
endeavor, right?
Yeah.
And I saw, okay, so he's building the engine from scratch. He's making the game. He's doing everything, and he's doing it with a kind of small team. And I thought, okay, this maybe it's doable. And then I started researching like who is in this space right now, in the indie space for point and click adventures, and I saw also Dave Gilbert from What Did I Games, and like many people. I could list a ton of them.
True.
And then I saw that some of them were actually making a living out of it. Like, for example, Dave Gilbert is a good example. He's making a living out of making adventure games.
Sure.
And then I thought, okay, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard. Like, making your own business is always hard, right? But it is doable. I see people who can do this and make it work. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try.
Very true.
So I think it was this. It wasn't an internal thing that motivated me to go back into this path. It was this external thing, seeing other people making it and showing me that it was possible. True. That's what gave me the motivation.
I see. Do you have, by the way, any regrets that it was so many years for you that you haven't made the first step? And you had to wait, like you said, it was external weights or journey for you to really make the first step again?
That's a really hard question to answer, because I have thought about it for a while, and part of me does regret that I didn't start earlier to do this. But the other part realizes that without all this background that I have right now, my journey would have been very, very different. Like, I see. For example, I also have my own engine. If I didn't have all this experience, like these 20 years of experience behind me, making my own engine would have been a disaster. It would have been commercial suicide. I would spend these 20 years making the engine and it wouldn't be done. It's because I have all this background that I'm confident that I can do this, right? I see. So, and I know I would still try to make my own engine, because I'm that kind of person that I need to build my own thing, right? And feel that it's mine, really. So I would do it anyway, but it would be a disaster if I didn't have all this experience. And it's not just that, like working with other people. It's not the same when you have all these many years of experience working with various people than when you start for the first time. I know that when I started working, I make many mistakes of communication with my peers and understanding people who is not from the same profession as me, like working with artists, for example. And after all this experience, it's much easier because I've done it so many times. I know that people don't communicate always in the same way, and that you have to adapt and find common ways and common ground to communicate. So in a way, I regret not having started earlier, but on the other hand, right now, it's much easier to start because of all of this experience and knowledge I have.
True, very true. And I also feel like from our conversation here that those teachers who like started to convince you that you should not start this career really also help you, right? Because you got even more stubborn and passionate about it in a way, right? It was a longer journey, but you still made it, right?
But that wasn't intentional.
Yeah, true. They wasn't intended doing this, but still they help you in some way, if we could say so.
Yeah. With the wrong intent, but
true, very true. So you should thank them, right? If they are still living, right? You should thank them. Go back and show them your game, and they will be like, hey, we shouldn't have said this, right? Yeah, very true. So a more personal question from me would be, by the way, so do you feel like your parents, close friends, and family members were supportive about this decision of yours that you would like to make your own engine and video games in it? How do you feel about it?
I'm pretty sure they don't even know what an engine is.
Oh, okay.
But, other than that, trying to follow this kind of passion of mine. Yes, they are fully supportive, all of them. That's for sure. And also, specifically in the genre that we are picking, this point and click adventure genre, my father specifically was very key to that, because when I was a kid, we used to play all these, of course, all the Lucas and Sierra and so on, all these games together. and we would be trying to solve the puzzles, and sometimes he found the solution, sometimes I found the solution, and it was so fun to play with him, right? It was kind of a cooperative multiplayer kind of experience.
Just in solo.
And if it wasn't because of that, maybe now I would be doing something different. I don't know, maybe another genre or something else.
I see.
So that was really fundamental.
True, very true. And in my opinion, it's really nice to always hear and see these stories that really our childhood experiences always shape us, right? Or shapes us. Because in my opinion, I always say this at my shows and in other contents as well, and in the real life contents too, that it's very important to relate to our childhood and to keep our inner child secure in our life, even if we turn into adults, right? Because we always carry over all those experiences, like you also mentioned your example. So
totally. And it's not that he picked these adventure games by chance, right? The adventure games at the time were like all the rage. It was the AAA of the moment, right? So it was natural. But they started to make also other genres, and my father wasn't very interested in those. So the fact that we would play together these types of games,
it's like a legacy, right? So
even when other genres started to enter the scene, we kept playing this particular genre. So
true, very true. What was your very favorite experience? Let's switch to the topic of games that you have been making and made. What was your very favorite experience of the process of making your own games?
I mean, for me, it's always the same thing. Whenever I get I'm not an artist. I can't really draw very well. I participated last year in a game jam where I did all the art myself, and it wasn't too horrible, but also not the same quality that we are getting with Shadows of the Afterland, right? So whenever I get the final art from Emilio, our artist, and I incorporate in the game and I tweak my programming to work very well with his art, and then I see the final thing coming together, that's the moment. And then another one that is super special for me is when Juan, the musician, gives us the music, and then it's actually final, right? Then it has everything, and I can play it like it's going to be, and that's super special because I have this process where I first create a full prototype of the entire game before we have all the final art, with, of course, placeholder art made by myself without music, maybe some sound effects, but not all of them. And I actually had this for Shadows of the Afterland a year ago already. And then when I start replacing all this temporary art with the final one and with the music, and then I see the thing like in its final form, it's like, oh my god, it increases like 10x better, right? More than 10x better. It's just amazing. And after all this work, seeing it like a real thing, it becomes real. Up to that point, it feels like a toy, and then suddenly it becomes real, and that's so special to me.
Right? True. I can relate to that. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for your honesty again about this topic. So you have spoken about your favorite part and parts of the process of making games, but what about the least favorite part? So about the most challenging, if we could say so, parts of the process of making games.
Those would be like two different answers, right? The thing I like the least, and I think many developers would relate with this, is the marketing. I don't like it. Especially I have this programmer mentality where I want things to be like simple, predictable, exact. And in marketing, you have to find ways to tell the story that will appeal to people, and you have to be insisting on it every day. It's like, I just want to tell people, hey, here's my game, and then go make it and stop shouting every day.
There is no logic in it, right?
Shouting.
True.
I have to keep shouting every day, and that's my least favorite part. But yeah, we have to do it.
True.
And then you ask, what was the most challenging part? That's not the same thing. Marketing is hard, but it's not. I don't think it's the most challenging. For me, the most challenging part is finding the right people to work with. So I remember, for example, in our previous title, Intruder in Antiquonia, we started searching for artists way too late when the script was already closed and we were ready to start with the art. Then I started looking for artists, and I think it took us easily a couple of months to find people to work, because it's so hard really to find the right people. And for Shadows of the Afterland, I'm just very 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 lucky that Emilio was a friend of mine and he was interested in working with us, so it was a bit easier to find him. But yeah, finding the right people to work with, that's really the most challenging part, I think.
See. Do you believe, by the way, from this topic, my next question goes, do you believe in perfect synergy between team members, or is it something that develops out through the journey of working together? Since you told us that it's hard to find the right people to work with.
So I see what you mean. So there is half of the problem of finding the right people is definitely that you have a good feeling with them and that you can work well with them. But then there is this other half, which is, especially when you are making a game with kind of a niche aesthetics, or I don't know if aesthetic is the right word, but for example, Shadows of the Afterland is pixel art. There aren't a ton of pixel artists out there. There are quite a few, but there are like another order of magnitude of 3D artists, for example, right? Because it's a lot more mainstream. So yeah, when you have this kind of niche aesthetics or technology that you're working with, it's harder to find the right people because there are less people. That's the thing. And yeah, the other half, well, it's really hard. You have to trust your instincts and start working with people, see how it goes. If it doesn't work very well, change. I mean, it's easier in our case because we work with freelancers. We don't have people on payroll yet. We cannot, because we don't have a way to pay the same person through the entire year. We don't have that much work to do that, right? So when you work with freelancers, it's much easier to say, okay, no, this is not working, and we both agree to stop, and then you find somebody else, and so on, right? With payroll, it would be a lot harder, right? You hire the wrong person, and then wow, it's a lot more challenging to change.
True, very true. I see. The topic of the influence behind the stories of your game also, which interests me the most. What was the influence behind the story of your games that you made and in the making so far?
So for Intruder in Antiquonia, I cannot answer that question. I don't know what the influence is. I just I didn't write the final script myself. I actually hired a couple of script writers to help me, but I did write an initial core, and I didn't get any conscious influence, right? I'm pretty sure I was influenced by many things, but I don't know which ones they are. I just started working, and I just follow whatever my mind would
I see. Like a typewriter, right?
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? For Shadows of the Afterland, it's actually very different, because we knew from the start that we wanted a story about ghosts.
I see.
And the initial idea was to reflect a legend that we have here in Galicia, where I'm from, which is called Santa Compaña, and it's a legend about some ghosts that haunt the forests in the night, and the lead of the ghost is actually a living person that's a bit kind of possessed, and that was the original idea. We wanted to do that, but we couldn't find a way to tell a story around that would have a very good hook. And we know that our biggest mistake with Intruder in Antiquonia was that the game was really, really, really hard to market because we didn't have a strong hook. The strongest hook we could have would require us to tell spoilers, right? We would have to spoil like an important part of the plot to try and hook people. So with this game, we wanted to change that and make sure that even the shortest description you can make of the game would have a hook already in it. So after giving it like a lot of thought, we couldn't find a way to make that hooky, and then we started finding parallel directions, and we found the one that we are now in. This ghost, this person who dies, and the ghost arrives in the afterlife, but the memories are of somebody else from the future. So only telling that to people, we actually tried going out and telling that to some friends that didn't know about the game, and only telling that, they would already say, wait, what? Tell me that again. How does that work? And I saw it, right? It's okay. So just telling this
They
thing
are
gets people.
interested, yeah. Let's think about it,
with
yeah.
with Intruder, we couldn't get that. There was no way to tell about the story without entering in the spoiler territory that would get people. Okay, tell me more.
It's interesting, yeah.
So that's something we wanted to change. That's why we started with the legend, but then it started drifting away from that until we found this story.
I see. Again, switching to a more personal question. So my next question would be, I believe that all of us creators who create our own craft, we always tend to put our inner self into the craft we make, even if it's about experiencing loss, love, or anything positive or negative in our past, right? Is this statement of mine true for your work when you work on video games? And if your answer is yes, what examples could you bring us to the table?
Not in the first game, not in Intruding Antiquonia.
Okay.
And the reason is that I only developed this core, and then the details I handed over to the professional script writers who developed that into a full story. So it is possible that they actually added some of themselves into the full story when they developed it. But for Shadows of the Afterland, yeah, totally. It's hard to tell specific examples without getting into telling things that affect other people than me, and so I'm not so confident telling those. But yeah, it has a few examples of things that relate to parts of my life, or like, for example, there is this part. Yeah, I can tell one specific example without getting into issues in dragging other people in. So there is this part where there is a woman that has kind of a lot of importance in the story, and she is a cult leader, but she's not aware of it. Like, she just behaves like what she does is normal and natural and so on. But in reality, when you understand what she does and how other people react to it, she has a little bit of a cult, right? And this comes from personal experience in my past, where my family got involved with one person that was a little bit like that. Now it's already in the past, but yeah, that got included in the game. And then the personalities of some of the characters that I added there, they are based on actual people that I know. They are not exactly one-to-one, but they are based on those personalities, because I think it's the easiest way to create characters that are believable.
True.
If they are based on somebody who actually exists, nobody can tell me, no, that's not possible. It is. I know a person that is
very true.
like that, right?
Yeah, very true.
And then whenever I need to tell parts of the story, and I can't think of any specific example right now, but when I need to tell parts of the story, and I don't really know how the characters should behave around that part of the story, I try to find points in my life where I felt what I want those characters to feel, to be able to make them talk like in a more natural way, right? For example, I did experience. Yeah, I did experience loss in my life. Like, I lost my mother, for example, many years ago. It's okay. It's way in the past. And so when I need a character to talk about loss, I try to remember how I felt in that situation, how I did behave, to make the character kind of consistent with that, right? Because it's much easier to give those feelings to the player if I felt them myself, than if I just read them somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know if you were planning to bring that on, but I think that's one of the main reasons that you cannot use AI to write good scripts, because the AI never felt those things. It's hard for an AI to give those feelings to a player if the AI didn't have those feelings. It's like, what the AI does is, like, if I try to like give this feeling to a player having read it in a book rather than having felt it myself, right? It's a very different experience.
True. Thank you, by the way, again, for your honesty about this topic too. Thank you so much. Thank you. So what about, by the way, your future plans? So you told us that you always wanted and want to make games. But what about the future? Are you still feeling that you will be on this journey like forever and ever throughout your life? Or how do you feel now that you made games
right now,
and still make games?
it depends. So it depends on the face of the moon. But there are days that I think, I will retire doing this, and then there are other days that where I think I should get a real job.
Yeah, it's understandable.
So it really depends on like my mood swings a lot between this will work and no, this will not work. I don't know. I'm quite confident that Shadows of the Afterland will do much better than our previous title. But will it be good enough that it supports us doing this moving on? I don't know for sure. I hope so, but I don't know.
I see. Do you have, by the way, any plans for future games in your bag? I'm sure that you do, but I will ask this anyway. So
I want to keep making point and click adventures. That's for sure. That's what I love the most. As a kid, and even not as a grown up as well, I've been writing stories like since forever, right? Short stories, some long form stories, but I never share them with anybody else. And now with point and click adventures, I can write the stories and actually share them with people. So this is something that I always like to do. Not only game dev, but also telling stories, right?
Sure.
I want to keep doing this if possible.
And I hope you will.
I do have I do have a few, I don't know, not even ideas, just
stories,
hook ideas for future games. I know that I would like to explore a little bit of sci-fi.
Okay.
Not sci-fi in the Star Wars, Star Trek kind of direction, more in the Philip K. Dick kind of direction, right? Okay. Exploring more human,
more human based.
More than space and all of that. I don't know. That's something I would like to do. But if I can't find a good hook and a good story to tell around that, which I still don't have, maybe I have to find some other direction. I don't know. It's something I would like to explore.
I see. Be on the lookout in the future, right, for a sci-fi point and click game from our friend here. Okay. So again, switching to a more personal question. Were there any changes in your life, in other territories in your life, from being a game dev? So my question goes like, how have you changed as a person in other territories of your own life from being a game developer for so many years and being in the industry for so many years? If there, of course, were any changes.
Yeah, I mean, my stress levels are way lower now that I'm a game dev. I mean, Google is a very demanding place, and even if you do a very good job, the environment is so challenging because everybody is super smart, and just trying to keep up with everybody else is so stressful. And then, of course, you have to release things very, very fast, and you have you have this feeling that you have to keep proving yourself every single day, and it's super, super stressful. Actually, I had even some health issues around stress when I was working for them back in the day. And now, as a game dev, it's a completely opposite story. I actually work harder now than when I was at Google, but it's totally different. Because it's not about the amount of work; it's about the perceived expectations, right? I now don't have these expectations that I might get fired if I don't do a very good job, or not even if I do a very good job. If people perceive that I do a very good job, right? That's out of the equation now, because now Silvia, the other half of the studio, is my only boss, and she's very friendly, very supportive. So my stress levels are.
She won't fire you, right? Hopefully.
Of course, there is a bit of no, she won't fire me. I hope so. There is a little bit of stress, of course, around launch date, but that's normal.
True.
Maybe even healthy that the stress varies a lot. Is not always flat.
True, very true.
But other than launch date, it's very manageable for me, at least. And I feel healthier overall now that I do this.
I see. Were there any other changes, by the way, or just this one that you feel is it's because of you switched to game dev?
Well, I work from home all the time.
So it's
Before,
easier.
of course, I did the switch in back to Spain in 2020. So you remember COVID. So we were
Yeah,
already working from home at that point, but that was temporary. I would have to go back to working at the office,
I see.
and I actually prefer working from home. Sylvia is on the contrary; she prefers working at an office rather than from home. So, yeah. But yeah, for me, it's totally fine. I'm actually happier working from home.
I see. I see. I see. Switching back to the topic of your games, is there anything, by the way, that needed to be cut out from your games so far? And if yes, could you like reproduce it or reuse it throughout the journey of developing those games?
um, yeah. So, for example, in Intruding Antiquonia, our initial goal was to have voiceover for it,
Okay.
and the writers actually wrote all the dialogue counting on voiceover.
I
They
see.
wrote the dialogue that would work especially well if there are actors that read the
I
script.
see. I see. I see.
And because we didn't get enough funding to do that, and actually, to be honest, when we started with the game, we didn't even know how much that voiceover cost. So when we realized how much does it cost, and that we didn't get enough funding to pay for it, we had to cut it. And cutting it actually also involved going back to the writers and modify the script here and there to make sure it would still work when it's only read and there aren't characters expressing the emotions,
I
right?
see. I see.
Yeah. So that's, I think, the biggest cut we have to make so far.
Would you like to go back to that part of your past game and also like redo it like a remaster edition to have voiceover if you had the funding?
Well, I would like to go back and redo it, not only because of that, but for other reasons. Like I wasn't as good designing puzzles back then, and when I play the game now, it's like, oh, I would love to change those puzzles and make them more interesting. And oh, there is a point where there is a watering can that just appears in a place for no reason, and that's totally unfair for people trying to solve the puzzle. So I would love to change that, but yeah, the thing is, it is not worth it, because even if we do a remaster of the game already sold everything that it had to sell. It's not going to sell
see.
again just because we do that. So that work, that effort is better spent in the new game to make
game.
sure that it's as good as it can be and that people enjoy it as much as possible. And it's not just about selling copies, it's even about making work that people will actually enjoy. So if we go back and remake the old game and we put it out there, I'm pretty sure pretty much nobody will actually go and play it. It's already played. They already know the story. So it would be a waste of time, even from the perspective of getting it in the hands of the player. So I'd rather spend the time on the new game, make sure that as many people as possible want to play it, and then make it as polished as possible.
I see. I see. You brought up the topic, by the way, of the puzzles, right? So what was the goal of the difficulty settings for your games and their puzzles?
So in Intruding Antiquonia, we wanted the game to be as approachable as possible. This was actually a mistake, even from the perspective of marketing, that we wanted everyone to like the game, and that was a mistake. Now I understand that you need to have a very clear target in mind, that who do you want the game to enjoy the game. And you cannot please everyone. You cannot please the hardcore adventurers that want super cool puzzles, and also the newcomers who want very easy puzzles and hand holding. So yeah, that was another mistake. Now with Shadows of the Afterland, we want to cater to more experienced point and click adventurers. And actually, we did a playtest recently, and we picked people who had played at least 10 adventure games, to make sure that they had experience, and we got feedback from people who play games regularly, not just newcomers, because that's the target we have for Shadows of the Afterland. We still don't want to make the puzzles extreme. We don't want to make them unfairly hard. We don't want to. There are many tricks you can do, like making the pieces of the puzzle hard to find or hard to see. We don't want to do that. We want the puzzles to be as hard as we can make while being properly signaled. Like people know what are the pieces, and then they work in their heads. How do I solve the puzzle with these pieces, right? But we don't want to hide the pieces.
I see.
So there is a ceiling to how hard you can make it if you make it fair.
True.
I think.
True.
That's what I think right now. Maybe when I have 5 more games in my catalog, it would be different. I would have a different idea. But right now, my feeling is that there is this ceiling that if you want to make the game to be fair and be all the pieces very clear, you cannot get beyond a point, right?
True.
Of difficulty.
Like you said, it's very true, and I agree with that totally. That you cannot please everyone, right? So if you go for the hardcore fans, you might not please those who are very like starters in the genre, and vice versa. Yep. So it's very true. Yeah. As a fan of point and click games, and also a fan of those games that are released or having been released in physical form, are you planning to have any physical copy of your past game and also this new project that you're working on, or there are no plans for this?
At the moment I don't have any plans, but if the game does very well and some publisher of physical copies is interested in the game, I would be totally happy to have it in physical as well. The problem is, like, doing it myself, I don't think that's feasible. For example, Intruder in Antiquonia sold fewer copies in total so far than what's required as a minimum, for example, by Nintendo to sell physical, right? You have to order batches of cards, and I don't remember the number, but like the minimum amount of cards you have to order is already higher than everything I sold so far of Intruder in Antiquonia. So it wouldn't be feasible. I know I wouldn't be able to sell those cards, right? So we'll see with Shadows if it does. I think it will do better. Now, will it get to the point that it makes sense to go physical, or that I will be able to convince a publisher to release it in physical form? I don't know yet. If that happens, I would be more than happy to release in physical form.
Me too, yeah.
But I don't know yet.
I see. Are you also, by the way, planning to add like more platforms to the table, like not just PC, but like PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox, so that other platform players can enjoy your game, or just PC for now?
So for Intruder in Antiquonia, it's only PC so far, and for Shadows of the Atlant, we are planning PC and Nintendo Switch.
I see.
Both of them. The game is already working. I have a dev kit actually here.
Oh, okay, nice.
and it's already working on the dev kit. It's already playable. I had to rewrite my engine because of Nintendo Switch, but yeah, now it's working again, and it's working smoothly. I don't think we will manage to release simultaneously on both. That would be ideal, but times with Steam are very, very short. You can send the copy to test, like the build to test, like 2 weeks in advance of the release, and it will be done by the release time. With Nintendo, it's a lot longer. You have to wait a lot longer for them to review and so on. So yeah, I'm not sure we will be able to release everything simultaneously. But in the worst case, we release on PC, and then a few months later, when Nintendo gives us a green light, we release on the Switch as well.
I see. Sorry, go for that.
Sorry. I was... So Xbox and PlayStation, I don't have any plans at the moment. And
I see.
I know that many people like to play point-and-click adventures in those consoles, but for me, it's a bit awkward that you have to play with a controller without anything that you can point. Because on the Nintendo Switch, at least you can touch the screen. Unless you have it docked, right? If it's docked, you don't have that. And on the Nintendo Switch 2, they have this mouse now, right?
True.
The Joy-Cons become a mouse. But yeah, on the other consoles, you only have the controller, and moving the mouse with the controller is so awkward. I don't know. And I know the alternative is to have direct control of the character, and when it walks around the hotspots, you lighten them up. But I don't like that. It's like playing with the hotspot highlighter enabled all the time, and it takes away from the experience, right? You don't explore yourself, looking at all the details and then moving the mouse over them. You lose that experience. So I don't know. I mean, maybe some publishers will convince me at some point, but I don't think
Or
so.
I will convince you, right? Because I'm a PlayStation guy, so yeah. But it's true. I agree with you on that. That yeah, it's more like enjoyable to play these games, these genre, or on PC than on PlayStation. But yeah. So my next question was that as a player, was there any change in how you view games now or how you play games now that you're a game dev for so many years and you made games now?
Totally. Absolutely. I remember, to give a specific example, I remember playing Cathy Rain back in the day,
Okay.
and it was super enjoyable, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was super fun, right? And then recently, when I was actually, before I started working on the puzzles for Shadows of the Afterland, I decided to go and replay some of the games from the past to analyze how they mix the story with the puzzles, to learn from them and see what I could apply to my own game, right? And one of the games I replayed was Cathy Rain. And the experience was so different when I was in this reviewer mode, right? I imagine that like professional reviewers from newspapers, they probably have the same experience, right? That they don't enjoy the games in the same way when they are reviewing than when they're just chilling and playing. So yeah, it was a totally different experience. I noticed many details that I was missing when I was just playing as a regular player, especially about narrative design and puzzle design. There are many things that I didn't notice when I was just playing and enjoying it, right? And the same for another one I played was Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers. And yeah, the things you notice when you played, like reviewing and taking notes about things, it's completely different. It's like you're playing a different game.
How, by the way, your player as a player, how your like playtime switched that now you're a game dev? Do you play less or more?
uh, I think I play about the same as before. But the thing is, I now play for different reasons. I don't play as much to enjoy
I
games,
see.
although I still enjoy them. But I play more to analyze them and learn from them. So I always play in this mode in which you enjoy the games in a different way.
You take notes, right? Like you said.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then I get something for a different genre just to chill out, and maybe a beat 'em up or a shoot 'em up or a fighting game,
I see.
but very rarely. Especially maybe sometimes with the kids to show them, look, this is what the games used to look back in the day when I was playing, and I show them Street Fighter 2.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that, most of the gaming time I spend these days is other point-and-click adventure from fellow indie developers, and I'm always looking for things and understanding and figuring out, oh, there is a shadow here. How do they do that?
Nice. The creative mastermind, right? Or creator mastermind behind it, yeah. Would you, by the way, speaking of other genres, would you be down in the future to like switch genres and to make other game in a totally different genre than point and click adventure games?
um, I mean, honestly, I would like to explore other genres for fun.
I see.
So maybe in a game jam setting or something like that, I would like to explore. I would like to explore RTS, for example, because I did enjoy StarCraft 1 back in the day a lot. I spent so many hours playing that with friends. And this is, I mean, I don't know if this is very good for a game jam because it's a very complex game to make.
True.
But yeah, this is something I would like to make just for fun. Fighting games as well. I remember spending countless hours in Street Fighter 2, and I would like to maybe someday play a little bit with that, but again in a totally joyful setting. So professionally, I'm not sure that's a good idea from a business perspective, because we now have an audience thanks to Intruder in Antiquonia and all the work we are showing about Shadows of the Afterland. We have all these people who are following us in social networks, our newsletter, and so on. And if we make a totally different genre, only a small fraction of our followers will be interested in that new genre. So we would be not starting from scratch, but almost. So it would be a very tricky.
It's like
business
killing your own
decision to do
business,
that.
right? So
Yeah.
It's interesting,
So
this topic that you brought up is that people are really like this, that if you stick to a genre, then you switch, they will be like, hey, you're not doing your thing now, right? So it's like, I don't know. It's weird for me to realize that a lot of people are like that. But yeah, it's a music
I'm following
industry.
you for
It's
the
the
point
same.
and clicks. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
interested in
yeah. True. I'm not interested in the new fighting game. Like, leave me alone. You should make a fighting game cross point and click game, right? So mix genres.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't get the like in set theory, you don't get the union of the set of people who like one and the other. You get the intersection.
True. But there is, by the
So
way,
you
a
wa-
game that is um, in this idea of mine that I mentioned, that it's a bit of like a beat 'em up game and also like a point and click game. I cannot really call
Brock.
them Croc or Brock. Yeah,
Brock the
Brock.
investigator.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a mix of both. Yeah.
I played it, but in the adventure mode.
I see.
The beaten up, I wasn't so interested in. It's not a genre I enjoy a lot, to be honest.
I see.
But but you can play it in both ways.
True.
It's not strictly a mix that appeals only to the intersection, because you can play it in adventure mode, and then
True. Very true. If you had to summarize a message that was always there in your games, that you always wanted to give for the consumers, for the players, with your games, with your stories, like you said, you always wanted to give stories to the people when you write these stories, what would be that core message, or messages, if there are more, that you always wanted to share with people?
I think it's too early for us to develop that message.
I see.
We are still exploring the space and finding our way and finding our voice as a studio, right?
I see.
I think Shadows of the Afterland definitely aligns much more with the voice that I think could work for us.
I see.
But yeah, we still haven't developed that message that we want to send with our games, as you say. I think it will take maybe one or two more games to start figuring out what's our, I don't know, narrative style, our voice, the things we want to tell, how we want to tell them, and the message we want to send to people.
I see.
But yeah.
I see.
In fact, if you play both games, you will notice that even from how do you call it? Like, I don't want to say genre, because genre you associate with point and click versus other things. Like the story genre, right, of these two games is very different. Like, Intruder in Anticonia is like pure drama, essentially, whereas Shadows of the Afterland is dark comedy. So they are very different from one another. We are still, finding our path, and now I'm thinking about sci-fi, right? So we are still trying to find our path and where we feel at home, and then follow that path. And I mean, at least we stick to point and click adventure. So hopefully our followers will still enjoy our games, until we find our our thing and we continue that route.
I see. What about the future art style for your future games? Would you like to stick to pixel art, or would you like to switch for your future games as for its art style?
No, absolutely pixel art for sure. We already wanted pixel art for the first game, but we knew that pixel art was more expensive than the style that we were doing for Intruder, and we didn't have the budget to pay for pixel art. So we went with a different style, which is, in a way, it would feel that it's more expensive because it's HD, although it's 720p, not 180p. But also we didn't get the art to the very, very fine detail level. It's a little bit halfway between concept art and fine detail. So we just found a way that we could actually pay for the art, right? But we already wanted to do pixel art, so just we couldn't just pay it. Now with the second title, we had more confidence that we can sell enough copies to pay for the pixel art, and so we jumped into the style that we really want to do. For the future, I think we want to keep exploring pixel art, maybe even taking it a little bit further. Like, for example, in this game, we are already adding a little bit of lighting effects when characters pass behind the lights. We put this rim light around the character. We still don't do real-time shadows. Maybe in the future we will explore that. So this is something I would like to explore, how to evolve, not evolve, but like enrich pixel art with maybe some real-time effects that make it more beautiful.
I see. At the very beginning of our interview, you also talked about having all those experiences for so many years and gathering those experiences for your bag or to your bag or into your bag. What other experiences would you like to gather, and how would you like to evolve in this game dev territory in the future? If there are any other like territories that you would like to develop your skills in, since you mentioned that art is something that you tried but you still did not feel that confident, is there, or is it this territory that you would like to develop your skills in, or there are other territories that you would like to evolve?
I am developing my skill set in pixel art already. I'm taking some online courses to learn a little bit more.
Nice.
Practicing here and there. Still, in Shadows of the Afterland, every art is done by Emilio. I'm not good enough to match his skills. And I think Emilio will always be ahead of me, so hopefully we will keep working together.
But it's a good puller, right? So he's pulling you towards the finish line, we could say.
Definitely. I mean, when I always open, he uses a sprite to do the pixel art, and when I open his files, I'm always looking at how he did things and see what I can learn from the way he does things. So yeah, definitely. I do want to become a better artist, or maybe a bit of an artist. That would be already good enough. Not a good one, just one. And also, I also want to learn more about narrative in games. Because now when I see the difference between I'm not even talking about the dialogue, because that we gave it to professional writers, right? But already the core story in Intruding Antiquonia and Shadows of the Afterland, I see that the one in Shadows of the Afterland is already better. That core that I wrote initially, now it's already better. And I think I can keep improving in that direction and be able to tell stories better. So yeah, that's something I want to keep improving as well.
I see. Before I will go into more questions, and before we jump into the questions of the chat, we talked here about a lot of topics. Is there anything that you would like to bring up and to talk about that I might miss asking, but you still would like to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let me know. So you mentioned also at around the middle of our interview that if I'm understanding it correctly, you do not have a publisher, right? So you are publishing your own game by yourself. What was the causing effect behind this decision not to have a publisher?
To be honest, it wasn't a decision. It was just what happened.
Okay. Would you like to have a publisher then? If I understand correctly, or no, or
probably, but at this point we found a way to finish the game without one. So now finally we don't need it. But yeah, if we could get one and the deal is good, definitely we would love to work with them.
I see.
So we were planning initially to release the game end of 2024. The reason we couldn't do that is because art was in pause for the entire year, because we were looking for a publisher that could give us funding to finish the game. We spent like maybe the first half of 2024 most of 2024 looking for publishers. And we got a few rejections, many that didn't even answer to us. And the ones that rejected us, the story was always the same. Economic situation is super hard in the industry right now. We don't get money to invest in risky projects. We have to go for other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, you could read in the news all the time. This company is closing. This company is firing people. This other one is closing. So I kind of understood. But once we found a way to finish the game without a publisher, we just started pushing forward. And now if we get a publisher and we get a good deal, as I said, totally fine. And I think that even though I learned a lot about marketing between these two games, a publisher knows way more than me about marketing. They have more contacts, so they can take the game way further than I can do myself.
And it matters more. And in my opinion, sorry to interrupt you, but like in my opinion, like publishers should really like respect risky games, because like you said, like that was the message from a lot of publishers that hey, we don't deal with like risky projects, and we don't give money for risky projects. But in my opinion, that should be the case, that risky projects should be like bigger up for the people, right, and promoted for the people, because those are the projects which are trying to change the industry for the better, in my opinion. Because if you like make cash cow games that are pretty similar to each other, like for some years it will make money, but for a very long term it will die out for a lot of players, and it won't interest a lot of players. And we saw a lot of like story-oriented games and multiplayer games too, which were like this, like they were cash cows for like 4 or 6 years, and then they just got lost interest by a lot of people, because it really maintained for the same vision, and it did not have any change in it, right? And it just was like the very same other games in the same genre. So in my opinion, it's really sad to hear about these stories, like you mentioned with your example, with Honesty. Because like I said, should be like promoted that hey, this is a risky game, yes, but it's something different, right? So you should try it out. And like you said, it's also, in my opinion, promotion is very like hard, and people do not see that a lot of games which are great, they are not promoted enough, and that's how they do not like reach people, right? So if you don't reach people, how they will know about that game, right? So one of my family members who is not a gamer and never was a gamer, for him games was like, hey, it's just shooting, right? So he's the total boomer, but he was very clever with this saying of his that he always told me that, hey, how would you like to get your stuff and your craft promoted and known by people if you do not do the work for getting it promoted, right? And how can people find your work? And that's the key element, that if a normal person who is like not into game dev thinks this, those passionate people like me and you who are really into gaming, right, we should also like think like this, because like it should help. And I think that's what publishers should really do about it, that everyday people will only learn about gaming industry if they are not gamers, if it's promoted to them, right? And that's how I also feel, because I feel like, especially in European countries, gaming culture is like at this state of like getting to its low and high points again. Like a lot of people play games, but they are not aware of the games which are out there, right? Because they're not getting like face to face with games or game devs. And it's sad, because at the end of the day, like there are so many games like yours which are awesome, and they are risky, and they are niche, and they are needed to be out there for people to like, even just to try out, right? And if, I don't know, there are like 1 million people know about your game, I'm sure that half of them, or at least like, I don't know, 1/3 of them will try out, and maybe 1/3 will buy it also, right? The more you gain, the more people you gain to like know about the game, the more people will buy it, and the more people will know and how to deal with that game. So it's that easy. It's just numbers, right? The more. So it's like win-win.
To be honest with you, and I'm not trying to defend the publishers or anything, but
no, I wasn't against the publishers. So don't get me wrong. It wasn't against the publishers. It's just.
It's not even, I don't think it's even their call, to be honest, because the publishers, at least the publishers I was reaching out to, which are like the kind of biggest ones around adventure games, they have investors, right? And those investors are the ones who say, yeah, you can go
money
with this,
talks,
I'll give you money for this, I will give you money for that. And if the investors see that the market is in a kind of strange situation, they become risk averse, scared, and then the publisher cannot really, you know, push against that. Like the money is from the investors. But I agree that at least when the market is in a healthy situation, they should take some risks, because that's where they will find the new ways of earning money in the future, rather than milking the same thing. Call of Duty all the time.
Very true. And I feel like the whole media outlet, for example, like you mentioned, video game journalists also like not doing their job perfectly, in my opinion, because like now we are living in an era where like indie games are like just picked up randomly by like media outlets, like for example content creators or video game journalists, but not all of them are picked up, which is crazy to me
Yeah.
because like I said, there are so many good games which should be out there for the people to see that, hey, this game is good. You should at least try out. There is like tons of demos for almost every game has a demo now, which is crazy because back then when I was a kid, there were only discs with some of the game's demos, right? But there is Steam demos, there are PlayStation demos, there are Switch demos now, Xbox demos. So it's really like almost every company is trying to have a demo for their game. So if you are aware and if you are open-minded about video games, you will learn about games. But if you are not, you need to have this like, I don't know how to call it or how to summarize it in a word, like a I don't know, an outlet or some space where you can like really learn about games. And that's what pisses me off, is that more people play games, but less people are interested in about learning games, and less people help those people to learn about games and bigger up the culture for video games, which is crazy to me because if it's simple math, you would think that the more people play video games, the more people really will be interested in games. But I see it very differently. Like I saw the transition for those 10 or 15 years from when I was a kid, and it was a very niche thing to play video games. Now everyone plays games, but if you like sit down one-on-one with a person to play with video, who plays also video games, he will like, or she will like be totally dumb about video games. Like they just play, like you mentioned, one game for 10 years and that's all, which is good, which is fine. Of course, it's fine. I don't blame them. It's just for me, who is open-minded about video games, it's weird, right? Because it's your passion, it's your hobby. And for me, passion means that I would like to learn more about something that I love, right? And I think that's not only the consumers who should be blamed, but also, like I said, the media outlets who are not trying to push positive like promotion for these people. Because it's not about, in my opinion, it's not about like selling the game to the people, but if you will just promote and say that, hey, this is a good game, at least give it a try. It's a possibility that they will try it out, right? But if you do not do that promotion, like it's a dead end. Like you won't even know about the game. Like I used to tell this story now for some minutes ago, like from my family member who said that, hey, if I don't know about this or that project, how should I start? How should I start looking for it, right? Because
totally, yeah. So the way I think about PR in my games is PR is just a multiplier, right? I always have this mindset that the news are there to tell newsworthy things, right?
True.
So unless you manage to make your game newsworthy yourself, the news is not going to pick it up. True. Because it's not news. It's not something that is newsworthy, right? True. So even though we can talk about whether that's fair or not, or whether we like it or not, but that's reality, right? So I try to do the best I can with the resources I have to make my game newsworthy, so that hopefully it will be picked up by the news. Now, streamers is a different story, right? Because there are many indie streamers. They are not constrained by, we have to tell news, we have to tell things that everybody else is talking about, right? They can afford to talk about niche games and so on. And there are many streamers who are doing this, and there are many streamers who are specialized in point and click adventures, and they are telling about all the gems that are coming out every day. But yeah, the big guns, the big news outlets, they still focus on newsworthy stuff. So we still have to do our job to get them to discover our games. So if they discover our games, the public will discover our games, right?
True. That's the sad part about it. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's weird because like when I was working for video game journalist companies as a writer and an author of reviews, I always thought that it's like because I'm passionate, other people are passionate too in this field, right? But it's not like that. So it's just like you said, they have these restrictions in their mind and also from their companies that they work for, that hey, we cannot like write about indie games, just AAA games, or if we pick an indie game, it has to be like a very good indie game. And it's for me it's stupid because like if you're passionate about games, you should write about everything you love, right? For example, I don't love, for example, sports games now to play, for example, FIFA. And I won't write about FIFA because I'm not passionate enough. But if I would happen to say that, hey, write about point-and-click games, I will write because I played from the very start of my like childhood years. And that's the key, that it's understandable on one hand, but it's on the other hand, like you said, and it's very true, and I agree with you totally, that it's unfair, right? Because like that's their job, right? So and for streamers who are getting paid to promote games, also that's their job, right? And I think that, I don't know, it's hard, and I still think that we are in the video game industry, we are having all these outlets and PR associations and groups who are really trying to help promote games, but we still do not have that really open-minded space of all the people who would really help the industry grow for a better situation, where like people are having the same goal. Like, yes, it's a win-win, because if you promote games, the more copies sold, also you are getting more views for your content, right? Even if you're a video game journalist or I don't know, streamer or anyone. So it's a win-win for everyone. Also for the players, because they will get to know more games, right? And they don't have to play just one game for their entire life, right? So it's like, I don't know. It's so easy to solve, in my opinion, but still people are so bumping against the wall their heads. So it's weird for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's easy because you're changing the culture of the industry,
exactly,
right?
It's
and
not
changing
just
a culture is really hard. It's not something you can do bit by bit.
True, but it's, in my opinion, it's not just change. In my opinion, it's rather like, how to say, it's not change the culture. It's like get people more open-minded about it and give culture for them, right? Because I can tell that, for example, in my country, in Hungary, there is like a very niche culture or a very small culture for a lot of genres in the video game industry. And it's sad because, like, if you would like to sit down, like I said it in the past, in our interview, to sit down with anyone from the player's perspective and talk about, like, for example, all-time favorite game of mine is Final Fantasy X, and I would like to speak about that game with somebody who is playing games and he's telling me or she's telling that, okay, I love playing video games. They might not know about that game, right? So you have to educate them. And that's the thing, like, in my opinion, what people do not understand is having a hobby is fine, but you have to educate also people around that hobby. And also, one of the developers I talked about recently in my Dev Live shows also brought up this topic by a lot of players, when they write negative opinions on Steam or any platforms, or even like video game journalists who write very negative reviews, sometimes they end up writing these reviews because they do not understand how the game works.
Yeah.
And that's a key point. Like, you're blaming something that you do not understand. For example, like with my past, like not loving like sports games, if I would happen to write a review about like the newest FIFA, I would be dumb to it, right? Because even if I love video games, I do not understand FIFA. I do not play FIFA that much to understand all the core aspects and how sequels have changed from one to another, right? From years to years. And it wouldn't be fair for me to write about that franchise and the new sequel of the game. And I think that's what, like you mentioned, it's very true. It's like the fair attachment from a player or an outlet to the games that they review, right? Or talk about.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned that, and I'm remembering our first title, Intruder in Antiquonia, it doesn't have very negative reviews on Steam, like the red finger down kind of reviews. But if you read the positive reviews, there is always some critic in them, right?
I see.
And I think we are very lucky that they all gave us a positive review because we build this kind of relationship with those players. We have very few players, but the few players we have is people who have been following our project. True. They like the project. True. They trust us as developers. True. And they say, okay, I know, well, this game has a few shortcomings, but I think there is potential. This developer can do better things in the future. True. So I will give them a thumbs up.
That's the connection that I always talk about, which matters at the end of the day. Because, like, if there is a misconnection,
if we were to reach if we were to reach, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of players, I'm pretty sure we would have tons of negative reviews from people who wouldn't be so nice to us just because, oh, it's their first game, let's just give them a hand so they can do a second one and so on. Right?
True, very true, very true. Yeah, I always say this that like personal connections, even if it's like a video game developer and the player and between them, the line is like very important because like especially if it's a niche genre or a niche game and a niche story or a gameplay, it's important because like that's how players will understand what developers are trying to make, right? And that's how you educate also the players and also the newcomers maybe because they will see that, hey, this is something new. I'm interested, like you said, with the idea of like hooky game, right? So people will be hooked on those stories and everything. Yeah, it's an interesting topic.
But along the lines you said, right? Just being very aware, not just about the genre, but even the developer, knowing that this is their first title and that they are giving their first steps. It helps you write reviews from different perspectives, right? You know, okay, yeah, this game isn't perfect, but it's the first game they make, and for a first game, it's pretty good. So let's give them a positive review, write some critics so they can improve on the next game, and help them out, right? Whereas if you don't know anything about the game, it's not just that you might not understand the genre. You might
will
not even
compare
understand
it to something that isn't tied to that genre or that game,
You might compare Intruding Antiquaria to, for example, Unabout, which is by a developer, Dave, right, who has a ton of experience. Of course, it's not going to compare. It cannot compare. I have no experience. Dave has a ton of it, right? So, of course, it's much, much better. And I mean, I understand that players don't have any obligation to understand our personal situations and all of that when they write a review. But if they happen to do, the review is going to be a lot more thoughtful, right?
True. And also helpful, right? Because like the main goal is to help you as a developer to develop your skills and future for your future projects, right? Because if they just write down that your game sucks, it won't help, right? So like it's not helping anymore.
That's the thing, right? Those reviews don't say, "Oh, and this part sucks." No, they say, "Oh, and in this part, I found this problem and this problem, and I think this could be done this other way."
But that's again education, like I said before. Like they have to be educated in order to improve not just the connection between players and developers, but to have the ultimate goal, which is from the player's perspective and the developer's perspective, is to release a very cool game that can be enjoyed by the players. At the end of the day, none of the developers would like to ship a shitty game, right? And that's what a lot of players do not understand these days, that you help by saying what's the problem and how to solve it. But if you do not have any solutions, how the developers should have any solutions, right? If you just say that, hey, your game sucks. Okay, but where? And what's the problem, right? Like, tell me, like, please.
Right. I actually, now that you say that, I prefer when they state the problem without the solution, because I love solving problems myself, right? So
it's a puzzle in your puzzle,
the problem,
we could say,
and
right?
I think, it's kind of a puzzle in a point-and-click adventure. Okay, there is this problem. How can I solve that, right? Because sometimes, especially when people are not developers, the solutions that they think about might not be the best ones because they are not in the skin of the developer, right? So when I give the problem and not the solution, I can think of a solution that will work well with all the constraints in mind, right? If they gave the solution, sometimes you have to kind of reverse engineer what's the problem. And I'm still thankful that they were so nice as to write this instead of, oh, this is a shitty game. But yeah, I prefer when they state the problem, not the solution.
I see. Okay, let's switch to the chat questions. Let us know, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions. Let us know. Let us know. Bármilyen kérdés, hölgyek, urak? Any questions? Let us know. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I attached the link of Shadows of the Afterlands into the chat so you can take a look. The wish list, the game also. Until we are waiting for questions, from all those experiences that you now have in your bag, what would be your advice for other developers or for people who would like to pursue their dreams as developers, but they haven't started yet, right?
Yeah, don't make your own engine.
Don't follow my path, right?
I mean, unless you have a ton of experience and you know what you're doing, and you really understand what you're getting into, don't make your own engine. It's going to be a huge waste of time. Um, I, I don't regret having made my own engine, but yeah, my personal situation is very specific. I have 20 years of experience. I have tons of experience writing testable code, automated tests, and a lot of stuff that really helps writing a good engine. And even then, sometimes I just want to add a new feature to my game. Like it happened yesterday, right? I wanted to, so because you can possess the living in Shadows of the Afterland, I had to make a decision. Like, okay, so when the character is not possessed, it talks in a particular way with a particular voice. If you possess the character, okay, what voice should I use when there is voiceover, right? The voice of the character or the voice of the ghost? And I decided that it depends. If the ghost is thinking, it should be the voice of the ghost. If the character is speaking to other characters, it should be the voice of the character being possessed.
I see.
So if I was using another engine, I'm pretty sure that would be off-the-shelf solutions to that problem. But because I have my own engine, I have to invent something new because I didn't have that, right? So, for example, I want the text over the character to change color to signify that it's talking with a different voice, because some people cannot hear and some other people just choose to play the game on mute for whatever reason, right? So I wanted to visually distinguish that this character is now talking with the voice of the other character. And I didn't have support for that on the engine, right? I had to make it happen. So I had to spend Sunday afternoon just doing this in my engine because I didn't have support for it. So this is the kind of thing you're getting into. Every time you want to develop something new that you didn't have on the engine, you are going to have to extend your engine. And this is going to have implications on other things in the engine. It might break your old games and so on, right? So that would be my advice. Unless you know very, very clearly what you're getting into and you have all the experience you need to actually build an engine and maintain it, don't get into that territory. It doesn't make sense.
I see. Going back to the topic, by the way, that you mentioned that you work now from home, how do you balance your free time, work time, family time, and every other aspects in your life?
So I generally spend, so throughout the week, like Sylvia and I, we have kids, and the kids are home in the afternoon. So what we do is we split the days. So one day, one works the full day, and the other one takes the kids in the afternoon. The day later, we switch, and we do that all the time, right? So we just split the time with the kids. And then on the weekends, it depends. If the kids are playing together and just having fun, maybe I come to the computer and do a little bit of work. If the kids need me to play with them, then I just play with them. It's kind of fluid. I decide when to work, when not to work. On the mornings, I'm always working during the week. And then if the kids have things like they have sometimes competitions and exhibitions and all of that and things at school, we just go, right? That's the convenience of being your own boss. I don't have to ask permission to anybody to go see my kids do some theater at school. I just go and do it, right? So that's very convenient. So yeah, I try not to stretch myself very thin as well. I try to not overwork myself, and I try to get 8 hours of sleep every night. Other than that. And then the thing is, because this is generally fun, like what I did yesterday for the voices, for me that's fun work. It's like maybe sitting on the couch and doing a crossword. I'm just having fun, right? I don't think about it as I'm working. I only think about it as working when I'm doing marketing. That definitely feels like work.
Yeah, that's true, because you have to really sell your game, right? In a way. So
I have to do things I don't enjoy doing.
true. And that's what I wanted to say before, is that you always wanted to work on video games. So it's your dream basically that you are living now. So yeah.
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 It's a bit of a mix between a job and a hobby, kind of.
True. Do you believe that by now that you are making and working on video games, you really found yourself in life, that you are in the perfect place that you always wanted to be?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it will last much longer. We'll see.
I hope
how
so.
the
I
games
hope so.
perform.
I hope so. I pray for that. I hope so.
But yeah, I totally like the place where I'm at right now. I think I should do. I mean, this is unrelated to games. I should find more time for sports. But yeah, other than that, I'm really happy the way things are.
I see. Another question that I missed asking and now I remember is that how easy or hard for you it is to leave the past project that you worked on behind and to start working on a new game. So how easy or hard for you was to leave the past game behind and to start working on a new one?
Um, No, I mean, not too hard actually, and I think this comes to what I said before about having all this experience. I had to do this so many times in my life, right? Even when I was working at Google, I was working on Gmail, and then I was working on Google Maps for desktop, and then Google Maps for mobile, and then YouTube, and I was changing projects. I did it so many times that now it doesn't. It just comes naturally. And even just saying, okay, here the project stops. It's something that for indies is very often very hard to do, right? And it's like, no, I will polish some more. I will polish some more. No, I use all this experience also to prioritize all my work and be able to draw a clear line, like up to this point, this is required. It has to go in the game no matter what. And from here below, this is optional polish. If I get to do it, that's great. If I don't have the time, that's great also. And this is something that also comes with experience, right? You have to learn to sometimes let go a little bit and say, okay, I have to stop here and ship it. That said, there was a big pause between ending Intruder in Antiquonia, which released in July 2022, and starting on Shadows, which happened in January 2023. So I spent almost half a year where I was actually studying about puzzles and story writing, screenwriting for movies. Even I got a few books that I was reading. I was watching a lot of YouTube content on that. I was studying other games like Cathy Rain and Gabriel Knight, and games from Wadget Eye Games as well. So yeah, I spent this half of year, and this probably helped also decompress from Intruder in Antiquonia before I got into the new one. So maybe the next Switch will be different. I don't know, but that one, maybe that break of 6 months to learn new things helped a little bit also.
I see. Thank you. By the way, thank you.
Sure.
For your time. Is there anything that you would like to talk about at the very end that we might miss?
Actually, I just remember a thing that I would like to tell.
Okay.
So on Fridays, the community on Twitter and Blue Sky of point and click developers, we have this hashtag. It's called Point and Click Friday. And every Friday there is one developer who is a host, and they put a tweet with a few rules. You have to retweet it and comment with your game, and then they will retweet your game. And it's a very nice thing that we have been running now, I think, for almost 2 years. And every Friday there is a new developer being the host, and we all help them by retweeting them and so on. And I think that's very nice. It shows that the community of point and click game devs is super nice to each other. Actually, every time I ask some other developers, like on DMs on Twitter or what have you, they're always super helpful. And if I ask them, hey, how, like I remember, I don't want to give names, but there was this developer who released a game on Switch, and I was considering should I do it or not. And I asked, and hey, how was it for you on the Switch? Do you think it was worth it? And they even gave me numbers, right? Like, wow. and that was super helpful to make my mind and say, okay, yeah, sure, I should totally try the Switch as well. So yeah, if other developers are listening to this and they want to participate in Point and Click Friday, yeah, go for it. I post the calendar every now and then, so everybody is aware of which slots are free. And yeah, just let me know that you want a slot, and I will put it on the calendar so that we don't step on each other's toes, and that's it. I just coordinate the calendar, nothing more.
That's very nice of you guys. Nice. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And like I said,
worries.
thank you for your time. It really was a pleasure and an honor for me to have you on my show. And I really hope the best for you with your games in the future. And I really hope that you will continue your journey as a game dev. And a homework for you: go back to your teachers at university and tell them and show them your games, because it's really like a going back journey as well for you to really show yourself and them too that, hey, I made it, I'm doing this now, and you helped me, like we discussed it, right? So they literally
I hope
help
they
you.
haven't retired yet.
Yeah, so that's a homework for you
Anyway,
now.
thank you so much for inviting me to participate.
Thank you
This
so
was
much.
such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the people who were watching or will be watching the VOD on Twitch and of course on YouTube, because like I discussed it at an earlier days, I will have to re-upload the unedited versions to YouTube as well because of the Twitch VOD regulation now. And yeah, I will need some more of your minutes of stream, but for those who are watching us live or will be watching back the saved version on Twitch, like I said, and on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to wishlist our game here, and yeah, of course, be on the lookout for other games from our developer here in the future. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day or night depending where you live. Bye everyone.